Everyone knows that budgeting is a process expected to be carried out meticulously. The amounts are huge and can be quite dizzying. The process involves majorly the executive and the legislature, and if there is any document or process that has divided these arms of government in recent time, it is the budget. The main tool of the document are the figures. So that is the bone of contention here. Who gets what? And how appropriate are the estimates? A civil society organization, Center for Social Justice, says there are, in their exact words, now I quote, frivolous, inappropriate, unclear and wasteful estimates in the 2018 Federal Appropriation Bill, end of quote. The group placed a big question mark on many items and estimates of government agencies, ministry and parastatals. Onyekpere is the Executive Director of Center for Social Justice. He joins us from our Abuja studio tonight. And Mr. Katiz Adigba, a lawyer, a policy analyst, a regular analyst on Channels Television here in our Lagos studio. Many thanks for joining us on the program, gentlemen. Let's begin the conversation. It's from your center and a few of your colleagues that you have identified over almost 60 pages of what you have outlined in the voluminous appropriation bill presented by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, to the National Assembly. And in all of this, you've outlined over 200 billion Nigerian naira that could be saved from what you have called wasteful, inappropriate, and unclear items in the budget. What exactly baffled you the most in all of these compared to the 2017 budget?
Well, it is the fact that we are repeating the mistakes of the past, because we've been doing this year after year and we've not been achieving good results, and we are insisting on doing this. I call them frivolous, inappropriate, unclear and wasteful. Frivolous in the sense that they do not conduce to the policy goals of government as found in various high-level national policy documents, especially the Economic Reform and Growth Program. You have items that are inappropriate. Indeed, they are not the things that we should be putting in our budget, considering the hostile times and considering the challenges every Nigerian is facing. Unclear in the sense that people deliberately play on words. The MDAs are deliberately playing on words. You have, for instance, in the Ministry of Agriculture, you have a very huge vote, 5 billion, 10 billion. They say it's for a value chain. What is the definition of a value chain? In the Ministry of Women Affairs, they play on such words as empowerment and sensitization for various hundreds of millions of naira. What exactly do those words mean? And then there are those ones that are outrightly wasteful, for which you cannot find a real purpose for them. Now, let's get back to those I consider more as frivolous and inappropriate. We have a Buy Made in Nigeria campaign ongoing, launched at the highest level by the President. And then we have Nigerian vehicle assembly and manufacturing plants. Virtually every MDA is insisting on putting a brand name, a foreign brand name, into the budget. Now, what does that mean? Is that the capital budget implementation, if the money is eventually released, will not impact on the economy in terms of creating jobs through those local assembly plants or local manufacturing plants, in terms of they having more profit to pay corporate income tax, in terms of Nigerians who will be employed, who will pay personal income tax, and eventually in terms of win-win for the economy. So what are we rushing for those foreign brands that are not even performing better than our local brands? You have a situation where people, some agencies are always demanding, particularly at the State House, very huge sums of money for maintenance, for repairs year after year, and they call it the annual maintenance expenses, running to 4 or 5 billion. Why must we be repairing and maintaining every year for 5 billion? How much does it cost to build a brand new house? And you have issues where people are asking for over 1 billion naira for cleaning and fumigation. You have instances where the SGF is asking for 200 and something million simply for subscription to professional bodies. And you ask yourself, how many professionals are working in that office? And how much is their subscription to their professional body? So many, manipulation of words and figures. You have, go to the Ministry of Works, Power and Housing. You have issues around outstanding liabilities 1, outstanding liabilities 2, no proper definition of where these outstanding liabilities are. And of course, you have the attempt to build a nuclear power plant at a time countries like Germany and Japan that are very well advanced technologically are winding down their own nuclear power plants, and we're insisting on committing suicide. So there is a lot of challenges with that budget proposal. You go to service-wide votes. You have such a huge vote, like 50 billion naira for sustainable development goals. What are sustainable development goals? This is just like the work across all the sectors. Now, previous budgets have allocated such huge sums from the Obasanjo days up to today. Very few Nigerians could give a testimony of what those sums were actually spent on. And so you have a situation where you pull them together under service-wide votes, and nobody is going to query them. Nobody is simply going to give an account of them. And at the end of the day, the money disappears into thin air. So I think it is time we begin to question the budget, its crafting, the conceptualization. Even at the state level, they are doing better. Because at the state level, many states will tell you what they budgeted for the same project for last year, how much was released up till the time the budget was crafted, and then what they are proposing for the new year. But that you can't find that in the federal budget. So it's like a staccato of programs. You just put activities, without giving a trajectory and history of how you arrived at them. And at the end of the day, we are still where we are with no forward movement. So that's why we are saying, remove these things. The legislature should remove them before they're approved and then send back to the president for signature and sent to them.
We understand now that the MDAs are meeting, ministers are meeting the lawmakers to ratify some of these figures. Let's bring in Mr. Adigba into the conversation. And some of the areas that we have outlined here, some of those that we talked about last year, these things look like a deja vu of some sort, because you talk about these things almost all the time. And if you look at it, for example, I pick one here, State House Medical Center. Well, the Center for Social Justice had advised that, do we need to continue furnishing a medical center which no one uses and which cannot take care of the needs of the first family and others in the State House? And you see items such as maintenance of office building, residential, running to almost 120 million naira. You see annual routine maintenance. In fact, they are paying rent at the State House, Abuja, at the villa, to who?
Shengu, this is, you know, a recurrent problem, and it's troubling that year in, year out, we have the same issues come up. It doesn't look like the system is capable of checking itself. I mean, how does anybody do this? Look, I've been asking myself, even before I got to the studio here, how many Nigerians spend billions renovating or maintaining a house in which they live on a yearly basis? And then let's, for the sake of argument, say, okay, this is government house, and there are multiple buildings on it. What is the state? Okay? Now, the National Assembly, of course, have got the oversight function. That function does not start and ends with just passing the budget. It goes beyond that. Who is watching over all these things to ensure that the funds budgeted for these things are done? You understand? And then we don't have to have it next year. Look, you talk about computers.
And software. 170 million at the SGF office.
Who is collecting the rent in Aso Rock? Who is the landlord in Aso Rock? You know, you talk about vehicles. How many Nigerians buy vehicles every year? You know what somebody said to me some time ago? He said the drafters of our Constitution made a mistake. And I said, how? He said, you know, Section 14(2)(b), which says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of the government, should have been the security and the welfare of those in government shall be the primary purpose of government. And when you look at things like this, you cannot begin to argue with this kind of people.
Mr. Adigba, entitlements of former presidents, heads of state, and vice president and chief of general staff is about 2.3 billion now.
How many of them? About 13?
About 13
About 13 of them. Now, Section 84, subsection 5, says that they shall be entitled to pension. And this pension should be at the rate equivalent to that which is being collected, the salary of the current office occupier. So how much does the president of this country earn?
Hear what the CSJ Center says in their recommendation. They said this is an outrageous vote for about 13 Nigerians. It amounts to about 170,
approximately 180,
about 180 million naira per member of this club. Yeah. He says kindly reduce by 50%.
Well, look, how much is the current occupant earning? The Constitution says they will be entitled to pension at the rate of the a rate that is equivalent to the current occupant of that position. So how much are they earning? Now, even if you factor in, you know, the local or domestic servant that they have, their vehicles and all that, and the vehicles, of course, you don't buy every year. So look, we need to begin to interrogate some of these things.